In the forgotten Igbo village of Nkwo-Agu stands a shrine sealed for 300 years, home to Amadioha, the god of thunder and justice, long believed to be asleep. No one dares go near it. But Ụzọamaka, a mistreated girl abused by a cruel stepmother, Neoma, finds her only escape there. Day after day, she hides inside the abandoned shrine, crying, praying, begging for justice, unaware her tears are awakening something ancient beneath the earth. For 2 years, her pain calls out to a god no one believes in anymore. Until one night, Neoma locks her inside, and the sky erupts, thunder roars, the shrine seals shut, and from within, voices begin to speak, ancient, powerful, and filled with judgment. Because the sleeping god is awake, and he has come for justice. Ụzọamaka's mother, Obioma, died when Ụzọamaka was 9 years old. A swift illness, though a 3-day fever, and she was gone, leaving behind a devastated husband and a daughter who'd lost her whole world. Okoro grieved for exactly 6 months. Then, as was custom for a man of property, he began looking for a new wife to manage his household and provide a mother for his daughter. He chose Poli. Neoma was beautiful, well-spoken, and came from a wealthy trading family in a neighboring village. She charmed Okoro completely during their brief courtship, and he failed to see what the village elders noticed immediately: the coldness in her eyes when she looked at Ụzọamaka, the calculation in every smile, the way her affection only appeared when there was something to gain. "That woman has a stone for a heart," old Mama Nkiruka warned Okoro. "She wants your wealth, not your daughter." But Okoro was lonely, and Neoma was persuasive. But they married in a lavish ceremony that drained half of Okoro's savings. At Neoma's insistence, of course. The first night in their new home, Neoma's mask dropped. "Your daughter sleeps in the outer hut from now on," she informed Okoro. "I won't have another woman's child sharing our living space. But Ụzọamaka is just a child. I don't care. My children, when they come, will be the priority. That girl needs to understand her place." Okoro, weak-willed and eager to please his new wife, agreed. From that day forward, Ụzọamaka's life became a nightmare. Neoma woke her before dawn to fetch water, sweep the compound, start the cooking fires. While Okoro was away at his farm, Neoma would beat Ụzọamaka for the smallest infractions. A pot not scrubbed clean enough, firewood gathered too slowly, a greeting not spoken with sufficient deference. "Your mother was a fool," Neoma would hiss while striking her. "A weak, foolish woman who died and left you with nothing. You're lucky I even let you stay here. You should be grateful for every scrapper I throw you." Ụzọamaka learned to cry silently, learned to hide her bruises, learned that asking her father for help was useless. Okoro had become so enamored with Neoma that he dismissed his daughter's complaints as exaggeration or childish jealousy. "Neoma is trying her best," he'd say. "You need to respect her. She's your mother now." But she wasn't. A mother doesn't beat until bones bruise. A mother doesn't deny food as punishment. A mother doesn't look at a child with such pure, undisguised hatred. Within a year, Neoma had given birth to twin boys, Chukwudi and Ebuka. From the moment they were born, the difference in treatment became even more stark. The twins had fine clothes, good food, constant attention. Ụzọamaka had rags, leftovers, and endless work. On particularly bad days when Neoma's cruelty was especially vicious, Ụzọamaka would run to the one place Neoma never followed, the abandoned shrine at the edge of the village. No one had maintained the shrine in living memory. The old priest who'd once tended it had died childless 40 years ago, and no one had stepped forward to replace him. The traditional religion was fading as new beliefs spread through the region. Younger people dismissed the old gods as superstition. But the shrine remained, slowly being consumed by the forest, its stone walls crumbling, its courtyard choked with vines. And at its center, behind doors that hadn't opened in 3 centuries, something slept. Ụzọamaka didn't know any of this. She only knew that the shrine was quiet, private, and far enough from Neoma's reach that she could cry without being punished for showing weakness. She would sit in the overgrown courtyard, lean against the ancient walls, and sob out her pain and loneliness. Her tears would fall on the stone floor, seeping into cracks worn smooth by centuries of prayers and sacrifices. And deep below, in the darkness behind those sealed doors, something stirred. Not much, not yet, just a small awareness, a sense that someone was there, suffering, calling out, not with words, but with the universal language of anguish. The God of justice was starting to listen. 2 years passed. Ụzọamaka grew from 9 to 11, thin and haunted, with eyes older than her years. Neoma's cruelty didn't diminish. If anything, it intensified as the twins grew and demanded more of her attention. Ụzọamaka became the household servant in all but name. She cooked, cleaned, washed clothes, tended the small garden, fetched water from the stream 4 times a day. If the twins wanted something, Ụzọamaka was expected to provide it. If they broke something, Ụzọamaka was blamed and beaten. The village noticed, of course, but as is often the case, noticing and intervening are different things. Poor child, women would whisper at the market. That stepmother works her like a donkey. Someone should speak to Okoro. Another would agree, but no one did. It was family business, not their place to interfere. The usual excuses that allow cruelty to flourish in the open. Only Mama Onkiruka, the old woman who'd warned Okoro against marrying Neoma, tried to help. She would sneak food to Ụzọamaka when she could, offer kind words, tell her to be strong. Your mother watches over you from the ancestors' realm, Mama Nkiruka would say. She sees what's happening. Justice will come, child. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will come. Ụzọamaka wanted to believe her, but justice seemed like a fairy tale when you were being beaten for the crime of existing. Then came the incident that changed everything. One evening, Neoma's twin sons were playing with a clay pot, an expensive one, part of Neoma's bride price, valuable and decorative. They dropped it. It shattered. Neoma, hearing the crash, came running, saw the broken pot, saw her son standing guilty and afraid, and without hesitation, she pointed at Ụzọamaka, who'd been in a completely different part of the compound. "You broke my pot!" Neoma shrieked. "I didn't. I wasn't even. Liar! You've always been jealous of my beautiful things. You broke it on purpose." "Mother, no, it was us." Chukwudi tried to confess, but Neoma silenced him with a look. "Go to your room," she told her sons. Then, to Ụzọamaka, "You will be punished for this." The beating that followed was the worst yet. Neoma used a thick switch, striking Ụzọamaka's back, legs, arms. The girl tried to shield herself, tried to explain, but Neoma was beyond reason. Or perhaps this had nothing to do with the pot at all, and everything to do with 2 years of accumulated cruelty finally finding full expression. When it was over, Ụzọamaka could barely walk. Blood seeped through her thin wrapper from the welts on her back. "Now get out of my sight," Neoma spat. "And don't come back until you've learned your lesson about respecting other people's property." Ụzọamaka stumbled out of the compound, tears streaming down her face, and her feet carried her, as they always did, to the abandoned shrine. She collapsed in the courtyard, her back screaming with pain, and sobbed, not just for the beating, but for everything. For her dead mother, for her useless father, for the life of servitude and abuse that stretched ahead of her, with no end in sight. Her tears fell on the ancient stone, and this time, something answered. At first, Ụzọamaka thought she was imagining it. A rumble so deep she felt it in her bones rather than heard it. The ground beneath her seemed to vibrate, as if something massive was shifting underground. Then she heard the voice, not loud and not threatening, just there, speaking in a language she didn't recognize but somehow understood. "Child, why do you weep?" Ụzọamaka's breath caught. She looked around the empty courtyard, seeing no one. "Do not be afraid," the voice continued. "We are old friends, you and I. You have watered this ground with your grief for 2 years. Do you not know what ground you water?" "Who are you?" Ụzọamaka whispered. "I am the one who sleeps, the one who was forgotten, the one your people built this shrine to honor before they turned to softer gods who asked for less and delivered less. I am Amadioha, and you have woken me." Ụzọamaka should have been terrified. The old stories about Amadioha were not gentle ones. He was the god of thunder and justice, fierce and uncompromising, who punished wrongdoers without mercy. But she was too tired, too beaten, too desperate to be afraid. "I didn't mean to wake you," she said. I had nowhere else to go." "I know," the god's voice rumbled. "I have felt every tear you shed on this ground, tasted every drop of sorrow. For 2 years, you have made offerings to me without knowing it. And now, I am awake, and I see what has been done to you. Can you help me?" Silence. Long enough that Ụzọamaka thought perhaps she'd imagined the whole thing, that pain and exhaustion had created a hallucination. "Then, I can deliver justice. That is my nature, my purpose. But justice is not the same as rescue, child. Justice requires balance, punishment for the guilty, vindication for the innocent. Are you prepared for what that might mean?" "I don't understand." "Your stepmother has committed great wrongs against you. Are the wrongs that cry out for correction. If I truly wake and walk among your people again, those wrongs will be balanced. But the old justice is not soft. It is not gentle. It is absolute." Ụzọamaka thought about Neoma's cruelty, about 2 years of beatings, starvation, humiliation, about a father who'd abandoned his daughter to please a wicked woman. "I want justice," she said quietly. "Then you shall have it. But there is a price, as there is for all divine intervention." "What price?" "You must bring her here, your stepmother. She must stand before this shrine and face judgment directly. And you, child, must be willing to witness what happens when sleeping gods are disturbed." Ụzọamaka's hands shook. "How do I bring her here? She'll never come willingly." "Leave that to me," the god said. And there was something like dark amusement in his voice. "Go home. Tomorrow, your stepmother will find herself drawn to this place. And tomorrow night, when she stands before these doors, I will be waiting. What will you do to her?" "What she deserves," the god replied simply. "No more, no less. That is the nature of divine justice." Ụzọamaka stood on shaking legs. Her back still burned from the beating, but something had changed inside her. For the first time in 2 years, she felt something other than helpless despair. She felt hope. Dark, vengeful hope, but hope nonetheless. "Thank you," she whispered to the empty air. The god's laughter rolled across the courtyard like distant thunder. Do not thank me yet, child. You may not like what justice looks like when it finally arrives. Ụzọamaka limped home as darkness fell. Neoma was waiting, fury still burning in her eyes. Where have you been? I told you to stay out of my sight, not wander off like a stray dog. But something in Ụzọamaka's expression made Neoma pause. The girl wasn't cowering as usual, wasn't apologizing. She just stood there, looking at her stepmother, with an expression that might have been pity. What are you staring at? Neoma demanded. Nothing, Ụzọamaka said softly. I'm just looking at you. It was the first time she'd spoken to Neoma without fear, and it unnerved the woman more than defiance would have. That night, Neoma couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, plagued by strange dreams. Dreams of thunder, of stone doors opening, of voices speaking judgment in languages that made her bones vibrate with dread. She woke, before dawn, drenched in sweat, with an inexplicable compulsion pulling at her. Go to the old shrine, something whispered in her mind. Go now. Neoma tried to resist. Why would she go to that abandoned ruin? There was nothing there but weeds and decay. But the compulsion grew stronger, irresistible, like a fish hook embedded in her consciousness, pulling her toward the edge of the village. Against her will, she dressed and left the compound, while her family still slept. Her feet carried her through the village, past the last houses, into the forest where the forgotten shrine waited. As she approached the courtyard, she saw Ụzọamaka sitting there, as if she'd been waiting. What are you doing here? Neoma demanded, but her voice shook. I could ask you the same thing. Ụzọamaka replied calmly. You came here on your own. Or did something call you? Neoma felt ice slide down her spine. You! What have you done? I watered the ground with my tears, Ụzọamaka said simply, and something grew. The stone doors of the shrine, sealed for 3 centuries, began to glow with a faint, pulsing light. The rust fell away like dust. The vines withered and died. And slowly, impossibly, the doors began to open. Thunder rolled across the sky, though there were no clouds. And from the darkness inside the shrine, 3 figures emerged. Amadioha came first, massive, carved from living thunder, his eyes like lightning, his voice the rumble of storms. Neoma, daughter of greed and cruelty, you stand before divine justice. Neoma fell to her knees, terror overwhelming her. Please, I don't. But 2 more figures emerged from the shrine. Allah, the earth goddess, ancient and implacable, her body made of soil and stone, flowers growing from her hair. 2 years this child watered my soil with tears. 2 years her blood fell on ground I once blessed. Did you think the earth forgets? And finally, Ekwensu, the trickster spirit, grinning with too many teeth, his form shifting between human and something decidedly not. Oh, this will be entertaining. A wicked stepmother who thought herself above divine oversight. Classic. I love classics. Ụzọamaka watched, frozen, as the 3 deities circled Neoma like predators around prey. We have slept long enough, Amadioha declared. Too long. We closed our eyes when our people turned away, thinking perhaps they had outgrown their need for us. But some things, justice, balance, the punishment of wrongdoing, these do not become obsolete. They merely wait. Please, Neoma sobbed. I didn't know. I didn't mean. You didn't know this was sacred ground, Allah interrupted, her voice like grinding stone. But you knew you were beating a child. You knew you were starving her. You knew you were breaking her spirit day by day. Ignorance of the divine is no excuse for deliberate cruelty. Ekwensu laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Shall we show her what she's done? Really show her. I do love a good revelation. No, Naoma screamed. Please, I'll do anything. I'll free the girl. I'll leave the village. Too late for bargaining, Amadioha said. You stand in judgment now. The only question is, what does justice require? He turned to Ụzọamaka. The girl shrank back, suddenly terrified of the massive god's attention. Child, Amadioha said, his voice gentler now. You called us forth. You watered this ground with your suffering. The judgment is yours to pronounce. What would you have us do with this woman? Ụzọamaka's mind reeled. Her. Decide Naoma's fate. She looked at her stepmother, sobbing and terrified, on the ground. Looked at the woman who'd made her life hell for 2 years, who'd beaten her, starved her, denied her basic kindness. Part of Ụzọamaka wanted to scream, destroy her, make her suffer as I've suffered. But another part, the part that still remembered her mother's gentle teachings, hesitated. Ụzọamaka's voice shook. I don't want to be like her. I don't want to be cruel. Then what do you want? Ala asked, her stone face impossible to read. Ụzọamaka thought carefully. I want her to understand. I want her to feel what she made me feel. And then I want her to choose. To change or to face consequences. Ekwensu clapped his hands delightedly. Oh, clever child. Not revenge, but education. I like it. Shall we, colleagues? The 3 deities joined hands, forming a circle around Naoma. You want understanding? Amadioha said. Then, understand you shall. Light exploded from the circle of deities, blinding and terrible. When Ụzọamaka could see again, Naoma was screaming, not from pain, but from something worse. The gods were showing her the truth, making her feel every blow she delivered from Ụzọamaka's perspective, every cruel word from the inside, every hungry night, every humiliation, every moment of despair. But more than that, they were showing her why she'd become cruel, peeling back layers of her own trauma, her own childhood, the wounds that had calcified into cruelty. And Naoma saw herself as a child, beaten by her own stepmother, saw how that pain had taught her that love was conditional, that family was a hierarchy of power, that the only way to never be powerless again was to make others powerless beneath you. She saw the cycle, saw how she had become the thing she'd once feared and hated. And she saw something else, something the gods showed her that broke through her defenses completely. She saw Ụzọamaka as she truly was, not a rival, not a burden, but a child, just a child who'd lost her mother and needed love. The revelation lasted only moments, but it felt like years. When the light finally faded, Naoma collapsed on the ground, sobbing in a way she hadn't since she was a child herself. I understand, she gasped. I understand now. Oh God. What have I done? Amadioha's voice was stern, but not unkind. You have perpetuated a cycle of cruelty. You have taken your own pain and inflicted it on an innocent. The question now is, will you break that cycle or continue it? Naoma looked up at Ụzọamaka, her eyes filled with genuine horror at what she'd become. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. You deserved better. You deserved love. And I was so consumed by my own bitterness that I couldn't see you were just a child who needed a mother. Ụzọamaka didn't know what to say. This was the woman who'd beaten her yesterday, who'd made her life hell for 2 years. And now she was apologizing. Is it real? Ụzọamaka asked the gods. Or are you making her say this? It's real, Allah confirmed. We showed her truth. Truth changes people, if they let it. Right, but whether she acts on this understanding or reverts to old patterns, that is her choice. Then I want her to have that choice, Ụzọamaka said firmly. I want her to go home and choose every day to be bitter. And if she falls, if she hurts me again, then the gods can judge her truly. Ekwensu grinned. A test, a chance at redemption. Oh, this is delicious. Mortal mercy is so much more interesting than divine punishment. Amadioha nodded slowly. Very well. Neoma, you have been shown the truth of your actions. You have been given understanding, and now you are given a choice. Return to your cruelty or break the cycle. But know this, we are awake now. We are watching, and if you choose wrong, there will be no second chance. The three deities began to fade, their forms dissolving back into thunder, earth, and shadow. Wait, Ụzọamaka called out. Will you go back to sleep? Amadioha's voice echoed as he disappeared. Perhaps, or perhaps, your tears have reminded us that we are still needed, that justice still requires watchful eyes. Time will tell, child. Time will tell. Then they were gone, and the shrine doors slowly closed, sealing once more. Ụzọamaka and Neoma were left alone in the courtyard as the sun rose. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Neoma stood on shaking legs and approached Ụzọamaka carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. May I see your back? She asked, quietly. Ụzọamaka hesitated, then turned. Neoma gasped when she saw the welts and blood seeping through the thin fabric. I did this, Neoma whispered. I did this to a child. To you. She removed her own expensive wrapper and gently draped it over Ụzọamaka's shoulders. Come, she said. Let me tend your wounds. It's the least I can do. They walked back to the village together, an unlikely pair. Word spread quickly. Neoma and Ụzọamaka had been to the old shrine, and something had changed. Over the following weeks, the village watched in amazement as Neoma transformed. She treated Ụzọamaka's wounds with expensive healing oils. She gave the girl fine clothes, good food, her own sleeping space in the main hut. She stopped the beatings, the cruel words, the endless work. But more than that, she started treating Ụzọamaka like a daughter. It wasn't perfect, and Neoma still had moments where her old bitterness rose up, where she caught herself about to lash out. But each time, she remembered what the gods had shown her, remembered seeing herself through Ụzọamaka's eyes, remembered the choice she'd been given. And she chose differently. Her biological sons, Chukwudi and Ebuka, noticed the change too. They began treating Ụzọamaka as a sister rather than a servant. The household transformed from a place of fear to something approaching family. Okoro, Ụzọamaka's father, was baffled but relieved. He didn't know what had happened at the shrine. Neither Neoma nor Ụzọamaka spoke of it. But he was grateful his household was finally peaceful. Mama Nkiruka, the old woman who'd warned against Neoma from the start, watched the transformation with knowing eyes. The gods work in mysterious ways, she told Ụzọamaka one day. Your mother would be proud. You showed mercy when you could have chosen vengeance. I was afraid, Ụzọamaka admitted. Afraid of what the gods might do. Afraid of becoming like her, someone who hurts because she was hurt. That fear is wisdom, child. The gods gave Neoma a chance to change. But you gave her a reason to try. You showed her it was possible to break cycles, to choose differently. 6 months after the shrine awakening, Ụzọamaka had a mother again. Not the one she was born to, but one who'd been reborn into the role through divine intervention and genuine remorse. And in the forest, the shrine stood quiet once more, but not empty, not sleeping, just watching. Years passed. Ụzọamaka grew into a young woman, educated and loved. eventually marrying a kind man and having children of her own.
Neoma became a grandmother who doted on all the children equally, her biological son's children and Ụzọamaka's. The transformation seemed complete, but the village never forgot what had happened at the shrine. The story spread, a cautionary tale about divine justice, about cruelty's consequences, about the gods who sleep but never truly leave. Other stepmothers in Ụzọamaka and neighboring villages heard the story and adjusted their treatment of stepchildren, because who knew what might wake if cruelty went too far? Who knew what ground might be sacred? Who knew which tears might water the roots of sleeping gods? The shrine became a pilgrimage site of sorts. People would leave offerings there, small tokens acknowledging the deities who'd woken briefly to deliver justice and mercy in equal measure. On Ụzọamaka's 30th birthday, she returned to the shrine with Neoma, now elderly, her hair white, her hands gentle where they had once been cruel. They sat in the courtyard together, and Neoma spoke to the sealed doors. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said quietly, "but I want to thank you for showing me what I'd become, for giving me the chance to change. I was a monster, and you made me human again." Thunder rumbled in the distance, though the sky was clear, and from somewhere deep and distant, a voice, Amadioha's voice, echoed, "We hear you. We always hear. Remember that, people of Nkwagu. We may sleep, but we never abandon those who suffer. Justice may be delayed, but it is never denied. Treat your children, all your children, with kindness, or we will wake again." The message was clear. The gods were watching, and would be, for generations to come. 50 years after the shrine awakening, Ụzọamaka was an old woman herself, surrounded by grandchildren. Neoma had died peacefully 5 years earlier. Her last words to Ụzọamaka, an apology and a blessing. "Thank you for giving me the chance to be better." On quiet evenings, Ụzọamaka would tell her grandchildren the story of the wicked stepmother who woke the sleeping deities. She told it not as a tale of revenge, but as a story about choices, about how cruelty creates cycles, but mercy can break them. "Your great-grandmother Neoma was not born wicked," Ụzọamaka would say. "She was made cruel by her own pain, and she could have stayed cruel forever. But the gods gave her a gift. They showed her the truth about herself, and she chose to change." "Do the gods still watch?" her youngest granddaughter asked. Ụzọamaka smiled and glanced toward the forest where the shrine still stood, maintained now by villagers who'd never forgotten the lesson. "Always," she said, "they may sleep, but they never truly leave. And that's why we must choose kindness. Not because we fear divine punishment, but because we understand that every cruel act, every moment of unnecessary suffering, every tear shed by the innocent, all of it matters. All of it is sin. All of it will eventually demand justice." "And if we're cruel," the child asked, "then the gods might wake. Or worse, someone you hurt might show you mercy, as I showed Neoma. And you'll have to live with the knowledge of what you did, and the weight of trying to be better. That's harder than any punishment." The child considered this. "I think I'd rather just be kind from the start." "Wise child," Ụzọamaka said, kissing her forehead. "That's what the gods hope we all learn. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the only thing strong enough to break cycles, heal wounds, and keep the sleeping deities from needing to wake." Thunder rumbled in the distance, gentle this time, like approval. And in the forest, the shrine stood silent, watching, waiting, sleeping, but never truly gone. And so, dear listener, we've reached the end of this tale,
the story of how a wicked stepmother woke sleeping gods and learned that divine justice is not always what we expect. The lesson here is not simple revenge. It's something deeper. Ụzọamaka could have asked the gods to destroy Neoma. They would have done it. Amadioha doesn't do half measures when it comes to justice.
But Ụzọamaka understood something the gods themselves seemed curious about. Punishment doesn't heal. Understanding does. Neoma was cruel because she'd been hurt and never healed. She'd learned that love was conditional, that power was safety, that making others weak made you strong. She was continuing a cycle she didn't even recognize she was part of. The gods showed her the truth, not to humiliate her, but to wake her up to her own humanity. They gave her what she'd never given Ụzọamaka, a chance to understand, to feel, to choose differently. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear that change is possible, that cycles can be broken, that mercy is strength. And remember, you don't need gods to wake up and show you truth. You can choose to see it yourself. That's to feel what you make others feel, to break the cycles before divine intervention becomes necessary. Discussion question: have you ever perpetuated pain without realizing it? Have you ever been given a chance to change after hurting someone? What did you choose? Share your story, because every voice that admits to growth makes it easier for others to start their own transformation.